How do we know what to cut and what to keep when we're writing fiction? I feel like so much of the imposter syndrome that comes up, so much of the self-doubt happens because we're not sure where to focus with our writing. We don't know if we've gone off on some crazy tangent. So today I'm going to give you the 7 questions to ask your manuscript so you know what to cut and what to keep, if what you're putting into this baby is really worth it, or if maybe you should do a little trimming, do a little pruning and cut it out of there. So at the end of this video, I have other tools that I'm sure are going to be helpful. So I'm going to go through these 7 questions, and at the very end, I'm going to give a special trick that will help you get your manuscript off to whoever you want to get it to. If you're self-publishing, this will help your self-publishing experience so much. And if you're sending it to some sort of editor or whomever, then it'll go well. So that's the trick at the end. Let's do the 7 questions first. So the very first question is, does this move the plot forward? This is really the central question for anything in the manuscript. And by move the plot forward, I do have a plot table. You can see the words plot table right there down below so that you can kind of fill in the major turning points of your manuscript. So the way you answer the question is, does this move the plot forward? Is it a turning point or event that has an impact on the characters? We're looking for every chapter, every scene to have a change that moves the plot forward. Also, another really great tool that this chart can help you with are open loops. So open loops are questions that hang over our heads and make us turn the pages. Turning points make us turn the pages. Open loops make us turn the pages. And so as long as we know that we've really put our plot on this solid foundation of changes, open loops, open questions, in other words, like, will our couple get together? Will our protagonist live or die? Who is the murderer? All of those are open loops or questions that hang over the manuscript and move the plot forward. Question number 2, how does this help us bond with our characters? So I don't know if this has ever happened to you in a movie theater, but have you ever been watching a life and death situation like a war, and you're not emotionally involved with what's happening? Often this is because we don't believe the characters are real, or we are not bonded with them. And so this may not seem like directly like, oh my gosh, this is making me curious about the turning points in the plot, but the depth of the emotion and the ability to bond us with good characterizations, if it's doing that, it stays in. Don't cut it, keep it. So question 3, does this fit the pacing? So now we're going to get into a little bit more detail. We're bonding with our characters. We've got big crashing events in our plot that make us curious and interested. And now we want to make sure that it fits the pacing. So, for instance, in a fantasy novel, you might do some world building. And in any novel whatsoever, we want to know where we are. We want to be able to picture the setting. And so it's important to describe if we're in history or where we are. However, if you're getting into paragraphs and paragraphs, as they do in Victorian novels, when this was more the style, then you know that you're probably interrupting the pacing of your novel and you might want to cut it back. So this goes for anything. Really get a feeling for the pacing of the novels you love and the pacing that you want for your particular genre, and then balance out how much time you spend on any given description. Is your dialogue just kind of going off the road and the people are kind of talking to each other with their hands in their pockets, just letting the day go by? Make sure that if you want to keep it, Keep up the pacing. That's question 3. Now we're going to question 4. Is it a cliche? If it's a cliche, cut it. This is cool because in genre fiction, we talk a lot about tropes. Love triangles are a trope. Dragons are a trope in fantasy. You know, friendships with dragons, antagonists that are dragons. These are tropes, and there are certain expectations in genres that people love to engage with this. If you have a love triangle in whatever you're writing, people are going to be, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this is going to balance out. So tropes, good, cliches, bad. So for instance, a cliche, you know, she was weeping. I'll sometimes, every time something bad happens, if our protagonist starts weeping, crying her eyes out, crying my eyes out, that's a cliche. People say it all the time. So what you want to do, if you find those cliches, cut them and push yourself a little. You know, try to think of different ways to express emotion. Think of different gestures. If you have a ghost in your story, make sure that your ghost is doing new scary things, not old cliched scary things. And so if you see a cliche, don't worry, cut it, and just push yourself to be a little bit more fresh and original and unique as a writer. This goes deep into craft, and it's fun. If you love the craft, you're going to love really stretching your brain and coming up with new ideas. Next on my list is, how does this fit the genre? So genre boundaries. Hopefully you're reading the kinds of books that you like to write. So for instance, you want to target those genres that you are writing. So for instance, let's say that I am writing a fluffy Hallmark romance. Usually these involve young couples. Usually, you know, there's some sort of career subplot in them, women's fiction. And so you'll know a little bit of the level of erotica, or the level of steam, as we say, that's appropriate for the genre that you're targeting. If you get too sexy, then you want to cut that back because you want to be able to fit your genre. Magical realism, paranormal fiction versus horror. You know, how are we seeing a dead body in your fiction, or are we just told that someone dies? So if you're doing horror, oh man, you better start scaring us. If you're not doing horror, please don't scare us. We're not expecting it. So does it fit the genre you're targeting? Know where the boundaries are of the particular genre you're targeting and stay within those boundaries. If you're getting out of the boundaries, cut it. Don't keep it. Okay, is this necessary for a transition? This is one of the harder, nitpicky things of writing fiction, is you can't just put a blank space and just have us jumping around in time and space all the time. You need to transition us. You need to, if you're ending a scene, have some nice closure where somebody might be saying a contemplative or thematic sentence, and then you can move us over to the next scene where we meet the new time and place. So if it's necessary for a transition, keep that. We got to keep our transitions. And the final, number 7, the last question, is it a darling? So often we'll have just this sacred paragraph that inspired the entire book we're writing, and we love it. Sometimes we got to cut that. If it inspired an entire book, it has done its job. Ask yourself, is this still serving the book? Because often those moments, or those darlings, kill your darlings is the phrase. Those darlings can be a little melodramatic. They can be a little heavy-handed. And so this is where that phrase, kill your darlings, came from, is because if you are too emotionally attached to it, very often it might be serving you and not serving the reader or the book. So good thing to keep in mind, kill those darlings. It can be fun once you get the hang of it. So I want to end up this video first and foremost by saying thank you, anybody who answered the survey I sent out on my email list last week, because all of the upcoming content will be answering your questions. Somebody in this survey asked me, how do I know what to keep? How do I know what to cut in my manuscript? And oh my goodness, I was so excited to be able to go through these questions that I know are answering a person's problem. So if you would also like to participate in the survey, I always read everything, and I will be making specific content to respond to it. So you'll find that survey below. The other thing you'll find below is the plot table. I do these videos every single Friday, and every single Friday, because I used to be a teacher, I have worksheets for you to be able to move forward on your own stuff too. So you can, the link to get this is down there. And when you sign up to get that, you will also get these wonderful emails and videos every single Friday. Finally, I promised this, I keep my promises. So I just want to give you a little bit of context, because these are questions you can ask yourself as you're writing the manuscript to polish it. So this is writer-friendly editing. These are decisions that it's better if you make them for yourself and have them in the manuscript before you send it off to another editor. It's always good to make your book as the best it can be before you send it forward. So if you are getting into traditional editing, this is another question from the survey. Thank you so much. I just want to go over the 3 levels of editing very quickly. First level is developmental editing. This is what I do through writing coaching. If you want to experience coaching for yourself, I have that link below too, so you can sign up for a free session. So the first level is developmental. That's making sure the plot and everything we talked about in this video is in good shape, ship shape, if you will. The second level is copy editing. This is more the style of the writing, making sure it flows nicely, that the tone is unique, and that I would say is getting out any cliches that might pop up in the manuscript. That's copy editing, style editing, tone editing, diction editing. Those are all the same thing. In copy editing, you edit the style, tone, and diction. Then the final thing that we do is the proofread. And so that's commas, semicolons, periods, spelling, which should be self-explanatory, even though it's not easy. I'm not the best speller, but those are the 3 levels of editing that you send out to, or you can do writing coaching so you have accountability and support on the developmental edits while you're writing your manuscript. And then the final thing I just wanted to say is a great trick. If you're not sure what to cut and what to keep as you close out a manuscript, do the read aloud test. Read aloud your paragraphs. When you hear it in through your ears as you're reading it aloud, oh my goodness, you're really going to get a feel for what works and what doesn't, and it's all subjective from there. So thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you want the plot table, it's really helpful. It tells you all about how to make turning points, and once you can see your book on one piece of paper, just this one plot table, one worksheet in front of you, gives you so much more clarity, and it helps you know what to cut and what to keep. And every single Friday, I make a new video like this, so subscribe to the channel. So much love. Bye.